Hi folks, Wooden Boat Dan here. Just wanted to give you a heads up. The podcast you're about to listen to was recorded several years ago, so some of the phone numbers, email addresses, website links, and time-sensitive information are no longer valid. Please keep that in mind as you listen. If you'd like to contact me, my email address is woodenboatdan@gmail.com. Thank you and enjoy the podcast. Welcome to Hooked on Wooden Boats, weekly podcast episode number 27. I am your host, Dan Matson, and this is the world's very first podcast fully dedicated to celebrating the art, craft, history, and tradition of wooden boats. And I am the voice of the wooden boat enthusiast in a world of white bobbing resin boats. Had to throw that in today, folks, mix it up a little bit. Hope I didn't offend anybody. Fiberglass has its place too. I've been on a lot of fiberglass boats myself, in fact, but I definitely love the wood look and feel and craftsmanship and all that stuff. So welcome back to another episode of Hooked on Wooden Boats. Great to have you today. The featured segment today is an interview I did with Eric Friberg of North Fjord Boats. I found Eric through a Google alert that I have set up for wooden boats, and Eric was featured in an article in Bellingham, Washington newspaper. And Eric basically has I would say it's a half-open shop. In other words, he's got a roof over his head, but it's open on both ends. And he's got his equipment in there, and he's building small boats, a lot of Nordic boats and stuff. So stick around for the interview. It's very good. 2 days ago, I spent the day in Port Townsend doing interviews, Port Townsend, Washington. Wow, what a great concentration of people over there in the wooden boat community. It's so much fun to go over there. I'm getting to know a lot more folks and having a blast. Started the day off with Carol Hossey of Port Townsend Sales, who was part of the first Wooden Boat Festival in 1976, I believe it was. I did an interview with her that I'll be playing in upcoming weeks. The fun thing, too, is that Carol is from Camas, Washington, and I actually lived in Camas and then in the neighboring Vancouver, Washington, and did some boating on the Columbia River. So that was kind of fun to connect with Carol. Then it was on to Steve Chapin. Steve's a graduate of the Wooden Boat School there, and he does all kinds of boat repair and building, and he's also gotten into building the Pocock wooden racing shells, and these were destined to become extinct. The Pocock company was going to stop building them and get rid of all their molds and everything, and Steve was able to rescue those and continue the tradition. So that's a really cool story. And then my third interview is with Christian Gruyer. I don't know how to say her last name. Sorry, Christian. Gruye. I know how to spell it. Christian grew up on wooden boats, and her family, or basically in her family, has been this wooden vessel called the MV Lotus for over 50 years. It's a 92-foot Edwardian style motor vessel, and had a great time with Christian, got a tour of the boat and some fun stuff there. So I did that interview, and then it was on to talk to Wayne Chimenti. Wayne is a tall ship master. He was captain of the Adventurous for 13 years, which is the 1913 Crown and Shield schooner design boat that sails with sound experience. Very fascinating guy, and he had spent some time in the Marshall Islands, which I have been there myself. I actually spent 4 months there teaching school as part of a Christian effort there through a friend of mine. And so Wayne and I had that in common, which is pretty cool, because most people don't know where Majuro in the Marshall Islands is, or maybe haven't heard of the Marshall Islands. So anyway, had a very full day. I was there I left home about 6:30 and got home about 8 o'clock, but just had an absolute blast. So thanks to everybody that participated in those interviews that I'll be playing over the next few weeks. definitely a lot of fun. Well, the other thing I wanted to bring your attention to is a website called felicityann.com, which is spelled FELICITYANN.com. And on that website, and I've mentioned this boat before, the Felicity Ann is a boat that Ann Davis sailed from Europe to the Americas, or cross-Atlantic, solo cross-Atlantic female. It was the first one of that type. I said that kind of awkward. Let's back up here. She was the first female to do a solo sailing across the Atlantic in the 1950s. And this boat that she sailed in is at the Northwest School of Wooden Boat Building, and they have a group of women that are working on restoring that boat. And their website is really cool. It's got a history of the boat, talks about what they're doing. So I would encourage you to go there, and I'm going to put a link on my show notes. Well, I'd love it if you would connect with me. I know I say it every week, but I'm going to continue to say it. Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest. You can find me under the name Wooden Boat Dan. You can email me, dan@hookedonwoodenboats.com. You can go to my website, hookedonwoodenboats.com, and leave a comment on my blog. You can call my voicemail feedback hotline, 424-261-2360. Or just grab your walkie-talkie, channel 27.5. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, please connect with me. Send me pictures. Let me know what projects you're working on. Tell me if you like the show, if you have suggestions for improvements, if there's somebody you'd like for me to interview, all those things. It's really fun to get feedback, and that lets me know how I'm doing and lets me know there's people listening and makes it all worthwhile. Okay, we're ready to move into the interview with Eric Friberg of North Fjord Boats in Bellingham, Washington. Take it away, Eric. Okay, it is March 2nd, 2012, and I am in the wooden boat shop of North Fjord Boats with Eric Friberg. Eric, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you very much.
Good to be here today. Boy, it's a cold day today. We had some snow, and it's 35 degrees or so. We're out in an open shop. We're covered, though, so that's good. So, Eric, where are you from originally?
Originally from Superior, Wisconsin.
Okay.
But my folks headed out here when I was pretty young, and my dad went to school to be a shipbuilder, and moved out here to work in the shipyards, and that's how we ended up in the Seattle area.
Okay. What year was that?
That was probably, I don't know, mid-'60s. Probably it was like 65 or something like that.
65? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you guys, what part of Seattle did you live in?
We lived in West Seattle, and we lived on Vashon Island for a while, and my dad worked in the shipyards in Tacoma and Seattle, and then he got interested in commercial fishing and went into that, and built a commercial fishing boat and went fishing in Alaska in the summer, and that's kind of how I got interested in boats, got around boating, and
okay.
And
so your dad was a shipwright and building boats and so on. Did you guys do any boating as a family when you were a kid?
Yeah, we did. We'd go out on my dad's fishing boat, and one summer I got to go commercial fishing with him in Alaska. I think I was about 10 years old at the time, and that was quite an experience. And
so that was a wooden boat that he built?
Yeah. He was at that time. They were starting to get some pretty good money for the salmon, and he decided to go and give it a try. He was getting tired of the welding fumes and stuff in the shipyards, and so he couldn't find a boat. So at that time, so he decided to build one, and so he built a double end. I think it was about a 30-foot double end fishing boat.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a big boat. So it was kind of a Nordic design?
Yeah, I think it was patterned off the kind of the Bristol Bay double enders.
Okay.
It was pretty similar to that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the boat that I went up to Alaska with him, and we went fishing.
So the idea with the double enders is it's more seaworthy on the stern end because the waves can break around the stern rather than break into it and go over the boat. Is that
right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. It's when you're laying the net and stuff too. It's and picking up long line or whatever you're doing. It makes it so that you're not the waves don't hit the transom and bounce off and and come over the boat and stuff. So
okay. So when did you first start doing woodworking or boat building or carpentry type stuff?
I guess I was probably maybe I don't know, my early 20s. I started getting interested in kayaking, and I started making kayaks, and it kind of grew out of that. I really found that I really enjoyed the building process, and then I started building more boats, more smaller boats, and that's kind of how it evolved.
Yeah, what kind of kayaks were you building then?
I started out with a kit that I got from England.
Really?
And it was a stitch and glue, kind of based on a Greenland boat.
Really? Interesting.
And, it was real long and skinny and real tippy. And after I built it, I was wondering if I had built it wrong because it was so tippy. And but after a while, I got really good at handling it, and I was able to. I learned how to do the Eskimo roll and all that. And
brave guy.
And and I was able to handle some really rough water with that thing.
Where did you paddle it?
Just all around the Sound. Go through Deception Pass. That was kind of a favorite spot out there.
Yeah.
One time I was out and got caught in a gale and got overconfident and got out there, and the waves were just like peaks of mountain tops. And when I'd come to the top of the wave, the wind would hit my paddle and it capsized me. And I think I capsized a couple times just trying to get out of there. It was this one area where the wind was blowing in one direction and the tide was going in the other, and it just built these really steep waves.
Oh.
And but once I got out of that area where it was blowing really hard, it wasn't too bad. I was able to paddle fine. But
did you have a dry suit or wetsuit on?
I actually had a dry suit too, so that I knew that if I had to go in the water, that I probably could swim to shore, and get out of it.
Yeah. Wow, that sounds pretty treacherous.
Yeah.
So that sounds like it was a fast boat, though.
Oh yeah, it was real sleek and fast, and it was actually pretty seaworthy. I mean.
So that was in your early 20s. You started building kayaks, and what did you do after that?
I was doing home repair. I worked with a contractor for a while, and doing construction work and stuff like that. And I was just doing the boat building kind of as a part-time hobby. And I had found this book at the Center for Wooden Boats library, and it was Norse boat building in America.
Okay.
And it was this kind of a pamphlet that the apprentice shop on the East Coast had put out, and it was just talked about how the Norwegian boat builders built their small, inshore fishing boats, and I thought that was so cool, and that kind of inspired me to try to learn more about the Scandinavian boat building.
Because you're a Scandinavian guy yourself, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I thought it'd be cool to kind of learn about that, and in the kind of a way it's my heritage, So, so yeah, and then a few years ago, after that, I met Jay Smith and found out about him and his boat building and his apprenticeship in Norway, and eventually I was able to take a workshop with him, and then I was able to go to Norway and go to all of the different boat building shops and museums, and go cruise the Viking ship museum and all that. So that was a lot of fun, and so it's just kind of taken off from there.
Yeah.
And,
so Jay Smith, he's the one that I interviewed for those of you that don't know, last October on a podcast. He's building a Viking ship now, right? 56-foot Viking ship. Yeah, he lives over in Anacortes, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So when did you go to Norway?
That was probably about 7 years ago, and I just wanted to get over there, and for a long time I've been reading about the Viking ship museum over in Denmark and what they had been doing, and how they're recreating these Viking ships that they had found in the fjord there, and doing it all with the traditional hand tools that the Vikings used, and just thought it was really cool the way they were able to figure out, and deduce from these the remnants of the Viking ships how they were able to build these magnificent ships, just with real limited hand tools, and do such a beautiful job, and so. So yeah, that was a really fun, and just brought my camera and took millions of pictures, and talked to some of the different people at the different museums, and so yeah, it was good fun.
Yeah. So you're a full-time boat builder now. When did you start that operation full-time as a career?
I guess it's been about 5 years now. I was doing boat building kind of part-time. Every now and then someone would want me to build a boat, and I'd build one for somebody, but it was still kind of a hobby thing.
Yeah.
And then I just decided to go for it and just try to make a business out of it, and got a website together, and decided that I'd give the home repair stuff a break, and just see what I could do with the boat thing. And I'm still at it. 5 years later. I was a little slow with the last couple of years. Got a little slow with the economy going down, but things seem to be picking up now. So that's good. And I also do, home boat repair.
Okay.
And restoration. We restored an old, what was it, a '63 Chris Craft.
Oh wow!
We brought it in and pretty much rebuilt the whole thing.
Really?
And
is that a Caravelle planked boat?
Yeah, it's
mahogany, or?
It's all the mahogany, the Meranti Philippine mahogany.
Oh, okay.
They were built out of, and we got a bunch of new wood from Eden Saw, and so that was a kind of a fun experience putting that back together. It's a batten seam above the water line, and it was kind of a double planked bottom, and we just put it all back together with a ton of 5200 marine sealant, and then we used a ton of bronze fastenings, to put everything back together, and it was a bit of an expensive endeavor, but I think it turned out really well. And then we stained the wood, and then tons of coats of varnish.
Wow! So you did that in your shop here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So, what's one of the funnest wooden boat projects you've worked on over the years?
The funnest.
The most memorable.
Yeah, let's see. I think the Chris Craft was pretty fun, pretty memorable.
Yeah.
But I think probably the most fun projects are building the fairings, the traditional fairings. Mm-hmm. I've done a lot of plywood boats with the marine plywood and epoxy, and they go together pretty easy and pretty straightforward. But I don't know. I just find the traditional boat building more fun. And like right now, I'm building a 17-foot fairing, traditional clinker built boat for a guy, so it's all yellow cedar and white oak, and I think we're going to have the framing is going to be probably Douglas fir, okay, and copper rivets and probably some bronze screws and should go together pretty fast.
So tell us, for our listeners, what a fairing is.
A fairing is basically what they call a four-oared boat in Norwegian. They're just the kind of the smaller double enders that they used back in the fjords, and they kind of I think as they go up in size, they refer to them, as like if it's a four-oared boat, it would be a fairing, and then it'd go up to like six-oared with sex ring.
Oh, a four-oared, as in the number 4.
Yeah,
oh, okay,
and the amount of oars that you use for the boat, right?
That's how they identify them, huh?
Yeah.
Cool.
And then like an 8-oared boat would be an ottering, I think something like that.
Interesting. So this is a 4-oared boat?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, which is a fairing.
Right.
Oh, interesting. So is that also going to be rigged up for sailing?
Yeah. This boat's gonna have the one I'm working on now is gonna have a lug sail,
mm-hmm,
and
so that's a single mast and sail.
Yeah, mm-hmm, yeah, mm-hmm, and a lot of the traditional boats back there use a sprit rig with a small jib, and then but if you go back in time. The most traditional, I guess you'd say, would be the square sail. That was originally what was used, since the Viking times. But in more modern times, they started experimenting with different rigs and stuff. But
so, how many planks are on each side of that boat on the hull?
This one is going to have at least 4. Some of the boats, like the Oselver, which was in the Os district of Norway, they just had 3 per side, and it would require some quite wide planks.
Yeah, those are pretty wide. What are they, 10 inches or something? 8 to 12 inches?
These are 10 inches.
10 inches, yeah.
Yeah, mm-hmm, and with lap strike boats. They do, because of the lap, they do require a wider planking. But one of the fairings I built a few years back, I was able to get some really wide planking, so I was able to build it with just 3 planks per side.
Oh, wow.
And but it just depends. Different parts of the country in Norway, they had different style boats, but basically the one key element is that they all were they were all really good rowing boats. That was a big factor. They were able to row easily, and sailing was kind of the auxiliary power.
So in this size boat, one person has 2 oars, mm-hmm, whereas some of the bigger Viking boats, you've got 1 oar per person, and you have rowing stations, is that right?
Right.
On each side of the boat? Yeah, okay. How many hours do you estimate it'll take you to build this 17-foot fairing, Eric?
there's
rough estimate.
Rough, yeah. Pretty much everything's a rough estimate. Yeah. This boat, I'd say I work just part time on my boat, so it's I don't always have the best records of how long it takes to build things, but I would say probably between 200 to 250 hours, maybe something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Just depends on how many problems I have with material or finding flaws in the wood or something. It can kind of take a little longer sometimes.
And what will you put a traditional finish on this boat?
I think it depends on the owner. I haven't really talked to him about what he wants. We can varnish it. I know we're gonna have like a bottom paint on it. Have a water line and then probably in the bilge of the boat we'll probably have some paint in there, and then probably I don't know, some sort of a bright finish. Something like Dex oil or something, some sort of varnish. Probably.
Very cool. And you got a couple other boats in here. You've got a dory that's. It's just to tell me about the dory that we're looking at here.
This is just a double-ended dory. It doesn't have the transom on it, and it's just kind of a simple little rowing dory. It's similar to the Gloucester Gull dory that Bolger designed. And
how many feet is that boat?
This one's about 15 and a half.
Oh, that's a good sized boat, but it looks pretty light to me.
Yeah, it's quarter-inch marine plywood, and it's put together stitching glue, and so that makes for a pretty light boat. Yeah. And just fiberglassed on the bottom and on the chines, and they're really a pretty good little boat for around the Sound. And I built one for a guy a few years ago, and I was surprised that he'd take it on camping trips through the San Juans and fill the bottom of the boat up with camping gear, and him and his wife would go out and spend the whole weekend out in the islands and
rowing,
and he had a big cooler of beer in there and everything
for ballast.
For ballast, right?
That was only good for part of the trip as ballast, though.
Yeah.
Very cool. That's a cool boat. And then you've got another boat over here. Tell me about this one.
This is just kind of my own design. It's what you can get out of 2 sheets of marine plywood. It's the 4mm okumi, and it's a double-ended kind of a Viking style canoe, I guess you could call it. It just has 2 chines. It's kind of a glued lap, kind of a combination glued lap, stitching glue, a boat, and I kind of tried to copy the Gokstad Fairing, this little Viking boat that they had found along with the Gokstad Viking ship in Norway, and I always admired that boat and the design, and so I tried to kind of emulate that with this design. Hopefully I can market it as a kit or and plans in the future is kind of my thought with it. So
will this be a 4-oared boat?
This would probably be just a single rowing boat. It's pretty narrow. I was thinking you can row it like a regular boat. You could possibly even canoe. Paddle it like a canoe too, but I think probably rowing it, and then you could put a sliding seat in the bottom too, which seems to be real popular these days. People like to use those for.
I like the idea, man. Those things are expensive.
Yeah, they are.
Like what, $600 or $800 for the whole unit or something? For a good
Yeah,
one?
yeah, they can be. There's a few different type out there, but I think, and I think you could probably, there is like plans for making your own too.
Oh,
but,
really? Okay.
Yeah. But
do-it-yourself version.
But yeah, they seem to be real popular.
What's the length on this boat?
This one's about 15 and a half.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool. So, do you get out on the water yourself, Eric?
Oh yeah.
What do you use? What do you use yourself when you go out?
It just depends on what boat I happen to have at any given time that I haven't sold.
Oh.
If I build boats from on spec a lot of the time, or just because I want to build the boat, and like with the dory here and this double-ended plywood rowing boat. If I happen to have them around, I'll use those. And we had a 27-foot Catalina that we had for a while, and we used to take that out and go sailing around the islands and stuff. But we had it moored out by Boulevard Park down in the bay. And one winter there was a big storm came up, and it ended up dragging anchor and went up on the beach and pretty much totaled the boat.
Oh,
so,
bummer.
Yeah, we ended up having to get rid of it, but fortunately we had it insured, so it paid for the boat, and
wow.
and turned out actually pretty well. So
yeah,
they paid us for more than the boat was worth. So,
wow.
So
wow.
that actually wasn't as bad as as it could have been.
Yeah,
so, but
right.
I don't know. Eventually, I'd like to build a wooden boat. A bigger wooden boat that you can do overnight trips on, something with a cabin, and I think it'd be really, really fun to take it to the Wooden Boat Festival too,
Oh, yeah.
Port Townsend,
Right.
which would be a lot of fun.
So I saw kind of an interesting boat on your site. It was called a Rana boat.
Yeah.
What kind of rig is that? Had a little cabin on it?
That was basically a Norwegian boat that they used to market over here, and I guess they are one of the last, one of the commercially built wooden boats. I think they ended up switching over to fiberglass in the 70s.
Okay.
And I think they're still in business over in Norway. But,
Interesting. So that boat that was on your site, was that a local boat or something you built or what?
It was a boat that was built in Norway.
Okay.
And it was the guys, I think Dick Wagner from the Center of Wooden Boats was involved in importing them over here.
Oh.
And they sold them for a while.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, because there's a few of them around.
Really? Interesting.
And this one was in really bad shape when I got it. It had a rig and a sail and everything.
Yeah.
But the planking was in really bad shape. And so I kind of slapped it back together with a ton of epoxy, and just kind of got it seaworthy. And I thought it would be kind of cool to put a little cabin on it and see if you could have a little cuddy in there and stuff like that. And
yeah.
So we used it as a kind of a putt motorboat for a while.
Your family did?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And then I decided that it'd be cool to, make a sailboat out of it again. So I tore the cabin off and I put the daggerboard trunk and stuff in, and the sail rig back on, and we sailed it for a while, and then eventually we sold it. But yeah, it was a really good little boat. I mean, I was thinking that it would make a good. The design would make a good glued lap boat, out of plywood. Mm-hmm. And it was for 16 and a half feet, it was very, it had a lot of space in it. You could carry a lot of people, and had a transom, so you could mount an outboard and everything. So
pretty versatile boat, huh?
Yeah, very versatile. Yeah.
Cool. So your company's called North Fjord Boats. How'd you come up with that name?
Well, we were trying to figure out a name for the boat company, and my wife was telling me that I'm always talking about the fjords in Norway, and she said, "Well, you should probably have something about the fjords in the boat name or whatever." So we decided that something along those lines would be appropriate. So that's kind of how we just decided.
Very cool. Very cool. I need to move my van there.
Oh, I think you're fine.
Okay. So tell us about your business for people listening that are interested in having a boat built for them, or buying a boat, or repairing a boat. Give us your commercial. This is your time to tell us all about your company.
Oh, well, if you're looking for a relatively inexpensive wooden boat, I can build up to about maybe 22, a little over 20 feet long in my shop, and basically I can build traditional plank boats, or we can do the more high-tech designs, strip planking, or the glued lap epoxy. Pretty much every type of wooden boat I can pretty much build.
Okay.
And then if there's something that you decide that a certain design that you like, or something that you don't see already out there, we can work on a design together. I've done that quite a bit with people, and then we'll also do restoration work. We can rehab boats, and we do boat painting, and I don't do. It's pretty much the carpentry end of things. I'm not all that proficient with the mechanical end of boats and stuff. I know a little bit about it, but I don't work on motors and stuff like that. But painting and the boat carpentry and stuff is kind of where I do most of my work. So
cool.
So anything along those lines, I'm good to go.
And what's your contact information, Eric?
Well, my website is just northfjordboats.com. It's just all one word, and you can see some examples of some of the work I've done there, and the contact information is there. And
and where are you located?
And I live in Bellingham, and
Bellingham, Washington.
Bellingham, Washington. Yep. Yeah, and it's up about a half an hour from the Canadian border, and we're pretty close to the San Juan Islands, and it's pretty easy to find.
And you can ship your boats to people in other places if they want to buy something. Have you done that?
Yeah, we've done that. We've shipped back to the East Coast several times, and we usually leave the shipping up to the customer to arrange. But it's been done. If you kind of hunt around a little bit, you can find a fairly decent deal on shipping. Sometimes it's not too bad, we've had boats go to Connecticut and Maine, and we've had Los Angeles. We've had boats go down there and stuff.
Cool.
So
okay,
it's definitely a possibility.
Good. Well, any parting comments for our listeners, Eric?
Basically, I just want to say that that life is pretty dry without a boat. Yeah, or was the Viking proverb? I can't pronounce it, but it's bound is the boatless man, and I think that's really true. I mean, especially where we live, with the water here, and you don't need a big boat, to get out and get out on the water, canoe, kayak, small rowboat, you can get out and enjoy the scenery and it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, cool. Great. Well, thanks for your time today, Eric, and good luck to you in your business, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Eric, for taking the time to do the interview with me. That was a lot of fun to come up to your shop and see your boats, and very cool stuff. I love the Viking effect and the clinker style boat building and all that stuff. And best to you, Eric. And I will put Eric's contact information on the blog also if you want to contact him about building a boat or repairing a boat or buying boat plans and that sort of thing. As you may or may not know, you can subscribe to this podcast by going to iTunes and finding my podcast there, Hooked on Wooden Boats, and clicking the subscribe button. Or you can subscribe directly on my site from the RSS feed there. And if you do that, then you're sure not to miss a show. And I do publish these every Thursday faithfully, as you probably know. So please subscribe. Also, if you enjoy the show, I'd really appreciate it a lot, like a lot, if you would go to iTunes and give me a 5-star review. If you do that, then my show kind of moves up the list of shows that people like, and that attracts new listeners, and it gets the word out. And, hey, let's get the word out on this. There's not a lot of people doing this. I think I'm the only one, in fact, right? Exactly, a voice in the world of white bobbing resin. So anyway, have a great week. Please email me at dan@hookedonwoodenboats.com with any ideas or things that you have. And also, I would love it if you would subscribe to my e-news list. You can go to hookedonwoodenboats.com/subscribe, or you can go to the subscribe button on my homepage and sign up there. And also, if you're buying boat building supplies and you'd like to get them through Jamestown Distributors, you can do so on my website by clicking on Jamestown's Distributors button there, and I get paid a small commission, and that helps defray the costs of doing the show. So have a great week. Wooden Boat Dan here. Keep the sunny side up and the barnacled side down. Wooden Boat Dan over and out. Have a great week, and let's get out on the water in those wooden boats. Talk to you later. Bye.